welcome to A Valid Answer with Scott and Marshall. It's our Christmas special.
Ho, ho, ho.
Ho. I actually have a shirt that has a picture of stormtroopers wearing...
Well, there you go.
And so, but like Luke Skywalker said, I can't see a thing in this helmet, so... I'll just take that off and place that right there. Yeah, Christmas special with a pastor and an atheist. We're going to talk about Christmas today and everything that aligns with that. So we have our liberal socialist atheist here and our capitalist conservative pastor. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Which exact holiday are you talking about?
All of them.
Which ones?
All of them.
And they're all religious, right?
Yeah, that's what a holiday is.
Means religious?
It's a holy day, right?
Holy day. Very nice.
Wow.
Good. Talking about Christmas now.
Festivus, the atheist holy day.
Festivus, when is that?
Well, that's substituted for Christmas. So we
Same
celebrate.
date?
Huh?
Same date?
Yeah, I think so. I actually don't know much about it, but it's a thing.
It's a thing.
Thanks
Okay.
to Seinfeld.
Is that the origin of it?
Apparently, it's...
Or did they just popularize it?
I've heard that it's not, but Seinfeld has popularized it, but it's completely made up, and it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek sort of thing. And I honestly
Like
don't
the
know
Spaghetti
anybody
Monster.
who actually celebrates... Now, Spaghetti Monster is real. You can't prove that he's not real.
I don't have to.
Flying Spaghetti Monster. These people probably don't know who the Flying Spaghetti Monster
Maybe
is.
explain that a little bit.
Well, it's
As
a
our
long
resident
story.
atheist.
But the Flying Spaghetti Monster is actually a spoof religion. It's FSMism, or Flying Spaghetti Monsterism. And basically, it was drawn up as a response to the intelligent design debate, I think in the state of Kansas, some 10 or 12 or 15 years ago, whatever. They had a debate over whether or not intelligent design should be taught in schools. And so a guy came up with the idea of the Flying Spaghetti Monster and said, in my religion, it's the same as creationism, except instead of God, it's a flying spaghetti monster.
Gotcha. So he was
I want
bringing the argument to
equal
absurdity.
Time. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I want equal time in the school and mentioned in the textbooks. And of course, it's absurd. But he got his point across. So there you go.
That's good. That's good. So where exactly is your draft card? Where exactly is your...
I did not get my draft notice for the War on Christmas this year. So I did not deploy this year.
You normally deploy in the War of Christmas, right?
I do. I'm very active in the war on Christmas. I do all kinds of things. I sneer at Salvation Army bell ringers.
Do you knock their cans over and kick their money around?
If there's nobody watching, but usually there's somebody watching, so
like an evil atheist would.
We have to be very covert about it, So we paint our face. We get the K-bar knife. I don't know what the knife is actually for, but we go out and we ambush.
Violent atheists. There you go. You're the one who said it. You're the one who said it.
Well, actually, is there a war on Christmas? Do you think there? As a Christian, do you feel there is a war on Christmas?
I don't want to say it's a war, no, and I don't want to say it's just on Christmas. I think that there is an active, there is some demographic that is actively trying to lessen the impact of religious entities and the influence of religion on mankind in general and on our culture. I think there are people who are actively working to remove religion from our culture.
Well, in our culture,
so if we want to call that war on Christmas, then
okay. Well, do you think that Christianity in particular has an unfair influence on American civilization, American culture, I should say?
I think American culture is based on it.
Well, maybe, but
historically speaking,
we've now reached a time in history where only about half of Americans consider themselves Christians. Mm-hmm. The other half either belong to some other religious denomination or claim no religious affiliation. They're the nuns. And now I think it may be up to double digits
nuns
who
are
claim
Catholic.
to be atheist. Yes, nuns are Catholic, as are monks and brothers. Yes, I get that, but... Come on, I just had to catch it.
You're all like, they're called the nuns. I'm like, no, the nuns are Catholic.
But, I use the term nuns because I think that's what Pew classifies them as.
Is that what you mean? N-O-N-E. None.
None. Yes, none. So if we live in a world where half of Americans are no longer Christians, why are we taking Christian holidays off? Why aren't we taking Hanukkah off or Eid off or some other religion or Kwanzaa? Why don't we allow people to take Kwanzaa off?
Well, I mean, is it basically
why only the Christian holidays?
Is it percentages?
Well, it's really a fairness question.
Well, fairness would that's what I'm saying. Fairness would be percentages.
Well,
wouldn't that literally be fairness?
No,
would be percentages.
That would be majority rule.
Which is fairness. That's what fairness is. It's not justice.
Well, okay, but
fairness is literally majority rule is fairness.
Okay, but majority rule isn't always justice. It's not always.
No, it's not
equitable.
always just. No, but you were asking about fairness.
Yeah, well, you get what we call the tyranny of the majority.
Yeah, but
right?
you were asking about fairness,
which is traditional and historic.
It's absolutely fair.
Okay, so we still have tyranny.
Yes.
Okay, right, fine, all right. I'm not going to die on that hill. But we do have the tyranny of the Christian majority.
How is it a tyranny?
Who are insisting that we continue to take Christian holidays off, but we don't get Jewish,
You don't
Muslim,
have to take Christian
or
holidays off.
any other kind of
Somebody's
holiday
forcing you to take Christian holidays
It's the
off?
Christian holidays.
But somebody's forcing you to take time
about,
off?
Look at the bank calendar and the federal calendar and the school calendar.
Yeah.
It's centered around Christianity, Christian holidays.
Yep.
So what's your take on that? Do you think that's fair? Do you think that's just? Do you think that's equitable?
Well, I mean, is somebody forcing you to take holidays off?
Well, my bank is closed. The mail isn't delivered to me. I mean, Christmas is on a Tuesday this year?
Yes.
But I'm not going to get my mail. I can't go to the bank. There's all these things that are closed. I can't even go to a restaurant to
But you don't
eat.
complain about Saturday and Sunday. Every week. Saturday, there's a day off when banks, there's 2 days when banks are closed, and you don't seem to complain about that.
Well, of course, banks are closed if the president has a hiccup. Whereas, the Postal Service, no, they don't deliver my mail on Sundays. Why not? Why not take Fridays off? Or Saturdays off, or some other day, or no days off? Why not do round the week delivery?
Wow! So you want like slavery again? You don't want people to have days off?
How is that slavery? I'm not saying individuals don't get days off. I'm saying that the firm would work 7 days a week, just like many other firms do. But you still get your 2 days off. You still work your 40 hours, and that's it. It just creates more jobs because there's more work. There's certainly a lot of work to be done in this world and in this country.
But do you complain that that they have Sundays off, or is that just an argument?
I'm making an argument. I'm not really complaining. I do think that the weekend is valuable, and I do think that postal carriers and all these people certainly deserve time off. I would not object to a 7-day mail schedule, but I would certainly insist that people get their 40 hours and they have 2 days off.
So are you making the argument that we should take every holiday off for every religion,
or maybe none,
or none?
But I'm not really making the argument. I'm kind of okay with Christmas and Easter and all of that and Thanksgiving, partly because that's my culture and I grew up in that culture. I'm accustomed to it. Mm-hmm. The majority of the people in this nation, even if they aren't Christians, still celebrate those holidays. Yeah. I do like the idea of gathering with family and all that. So I'm not like this militant atheist who's like, Christmas must be destroyed, cathargo de
maybe that's the reason you're not getting your draft notice for the because they know that about you. No, he's not committed anymore to the cause.
But I do want to throw that out there as a topic for brief discussion. Are we Christocentric or whatever? I don't know the correct term to use here. Mm-hmm. But America has a long Christian tradition, but we are not in any sense as a nation founded on the Christian religion. I think it was President Madison himself who actually wrote that in the Treaty of Tripoli or something like that. He actually wrote that in a legal, presidential document. So we're a secular nation.
Absolutely.
But
Hey, Merry Christmas, Josh.
Merry Christmas, Josh. Happy holidays.
Well, Josh Gunderson said Merry Christmas. So.
Yeah, I'm giving him the dirty look.
Oh, now you're slighting him.
Yeah.
Oh.
But anyway, so what's going on with that? I mean, is it time for change?
Well, obviously, I don't think so, because if you're saying that 50%, that's still a very big portion compared to the percentage of whatever other religions or other holidays or whatever comparatively. If you want to get, if half of people now don't want to, is that enough to say, okay, now that it's down to half, we shouldn't do it at all? Is that your limit? And would you apply that limit to any other facet of our culture?
Yeah, no, I don't know. First of all, if we had a vote, I would think the overwhelming majority of Americans would still vote to keep Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, all of
Well,
that.
since we are run by corporations,
Sundays off.
of course the corporations want Christmas because that's the big moneymaker time.
Well, because they've commercialized it, they've
Yeah.
hijacked it. So just as a fairness issue,
So it's been hijacked
suppose-
twice.
How so?
December 25th has been hijacked twice.
Well, it certainly was hijacked by the Christians.
Yes, that's what I'm
who
referring
stole
to.
it from the Romans, right? The holiday of Sol Invictus, or the birthday of the sun, I believe,
Yeah.
which they stole. But I'm okay with that.
So, in case you don't know, if you're a Christian who's watching this,
Jesus wasn't born on
I
December
understand
25th.
I as a pastor understand that there is no evidence that points exactly to December 25th as the date that Jesus was born, and in fact, biblically speaking, there's a couple of ways to either you work backwards from when Jesus' ministry started, but the more accurate way is to work forward from Zechariah and Elizabeth, who were cousins to Mary, who bore Jesus. That he
Parents
was
of John the Baptist.
parents of John the Baptist. That basically he was of a certain family, and he did his service in the temple and finished his service in the temple, and then she got pregnant, and then 6 months into her pregnancy is when Mary came to her and said that the angel spoke to me that I'm pregnant. So you work that, and then we know what family he was in. If you can look at Jewish history, you realize their family served at this time of year. So it's been mapped out basically that Zechariah probably served in this time of year. That 6 months from that is when Jesus was conceived, and then 9 months later ends up being somewhere around September, actually. So mapping it out from the Bible, more than likely Jesus was born in the fall, somewhere around September. It lines up with shepherds having their sheep in the fields, whereas by the time it hits December, they're keeping their sheep indoors. They're not out in the fields and because it's too cold and all that kind of stuff. So yes, the actual birth date of Jesus is more than likely not December 25th. I understand that. It's not the celebration of his actual birth.
Right.
The day of his, Christmas is not a celebration of the day of Jesus' birth. Christmas to Christian
of his arrival
is a celebration that he was born as a man, born as a baby, born as a human. And that the whole idea of, for there to be the sacrifice and the salvation, that you can't have Easter without Christmas is kind of like the saying that you'll hear a lot at church and stuff like that, that this action, his birth, is what ultimately led to the culmination of his death. So you got to have one and the other. So we're celebrating the fact that he was born and the fact that Emmanuel, God with us. That's the whole idea, is that God sent Jesus down to be with us as a human being, to live and suffer and die as a human being, and the whole thing for propitiation of sin. Propitiation. I can't even pronounce it right now, but yeah, it's been a long day. Sorry about that. So we're celebrating God with us, not necessarily the exact date.
So I personally think that if you have some religious belief, and I don't know how you get around having to declare it to your employer, but I think all people from all religions should have their holy days off. If you're Muslim, you should get your Muslim holy days off. And that might mean your weekend is now Friday, Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, however we choose to work it. And if you're Jewish, you should have, your holidays off as well. And I'm okay with that. Of course, that leaves people who have no religion without any claim to any particular holidays, but then maybe give them the option.
Yeah.
Do you want to stay on the Christian calendar? And then if businesses want to be open and if employees want to work on these days, I'm okay with that. But on the other hand, if they don't want to work, I don't think we should force people to work. I think we should allow people to freely practice their religion. Just as we allow people to take sick days and vacation days, I believe we should allow people to take days for their exercise of their religious faith.
Should that be used as a vacation day?
No.
Okay.
No, because it's a religious observance. And now the problem is a lot of people use religious observances as vacation days.
Yeah.
And one of my great criticisms, particularly of Christians, but I'm sure it extends to all religions, is that many Christians are functional atheists. You claim to be Christian, you may even go to church on Sundays, but your deeds and your actions and your words and so on are pretty much functionally atheist. You don't act or live as though you truly believe. And, there's that. Now, I can't judge any individual, but I think, and I don't want to make a hasty generalization fallacy, but I do think there's probably a great number of people in the functional atheist category.
Yeah. Yeah, quite a few. Joshua Roberts actually has a interesting question. Says, couldn't that create a religious wage gap? By so as long as you're as long as you're part of a religion that has a lot of holidays, now you as my boss are required to give me these holidays, compared to someone who's religious. Religion doesn't have very many holidays, so now this person has an advantage and a wage gap advantage over the other person in that respect.
Your boss is not responsible for your religion or your religious observance or what days you choose to take off.
But you're saying they should. But you were just saying that that companies
they should allow you
to
time if you wish to if you ask for it. If you say, I want these holy days off, I'm a faithful practicing Muslim or Jew or whatever.
So they're not taken away so that's good, because what you're saying is they're not taken away as vacation days, but they're not paid days off.
Right.
They're not paid days off.
They're days off. Now, if your boss wishes to be kind and extend you pay for those days,
so that would be
I think that's fantastic, and I would grant bosses a tax incentive or a reward for doing that for you, because I don't want people to be impoverished simply because they wish to practice their religious
But that would keep
faith.
it from being a religious wage gap in that, it's not a paid day off, that your religion is giving you extra money basically for not working. So no, that's a good question. So what about again, I'm not one of the Christians who is going to get all tied up in a knot because you don't say Merry Christmas. Like if I go to a store and the person says Happy Holidays, cool. I'll probably say Merry Christmas to them, but not as excuse me, it's Merry Christmas. Like I don't want to. Really, what's the point of that? Where's the sharing of the love of that? I'm not trying to be one of those people. But what about people who work at a place who their bosses say you cannot say Merry Christmas, you have to say Happy Holidays? Is that a violation in any way?
Again, a private business is going to tell employees that they have to answer the phone in a certain way, or that they have to say certain things to customers. You must thank every customer. Yeah. You have to, do this greeting. That's very standard.
Whether or not that customer was a pleasure to you, you still have to say my pleasure.
Right. No, but there's a standard protocol, and it's within the employer's rights to establish that protocol. Now, if the individual employee has an issue and needs an exemption from that, and I frankly don't really see that happening.
Gotcha.
Because 90% of those interactions are false anyway.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, let me
for coming, come again. Well, not really, but
okay. So I want to challenge you on that. It says basically you are saying that it's okay for NFL football owners to tell their employees that they cannot kneel during the national anthem.
Well, it comes down to what's in the contract, right? If you sign the contract and the contract says you have to kneel or you stand for the national anthem,
that's okay.
Then that's your contract, and that contract is enforceable, and there will be a consequence if you violate a tenet or a plank or whatever of that contract.
So it's okay for them to put that in their contracts if they wanted to.
Again, it's a private organization. Now I have issues with people having issues with the people taking the knee, but we've covered that in another episode. I support the people who are taking the knee, and I appreciate their advocacy. And to me, kneeling is a sign of respect. Do you not kneel in front of the altar? But
I'm more getting at, if it works one way, does it work the other way? Are you willing to accept it both ways? Can an employee tell somebody even that far? If you're okay, again, I'm putting it to the other side.
This is why we need unions to speak for the employees, so that if the employees believe they are being oppressed in some fashion, whether it's you're being forced to stand for the pledge when you would rather kneel, or whether you're being forced to say Merry Christmas or some other statement that you would rather not say, then we need you to be represented at the negotiating table with your employer so that we can, correct this injustice, or a perceived injustice, if it is one. So I want people to be represented. I want people to be comfortable and to be free. And that means your boss may ask you to say certain things, but that's, again, part of your job, and you're getting paid for that time. And again, how many of those interactions are fake?
Yeah.
You know, do you really think the person who is waiting on you really is really that into you? You know, when your waitress acts like she's being a little flirty, it's just a tactic to, pump up the tip. You know, she's not that into you, man.
That was when I was a younger guy, long before I was married, and there was this really nice looking girl at the bank that I always
they're
went
not
to.
into you.
I discovered that. So now changing subjects just slightly, as an atheist,
Mm-hmm.
when your son, who's now 5,
Mm-hmm.
if or when your son says, "Dad, what's Christmas about?" What will you tell them?
Well, he's gone to the daycare here.
Yeah.
And so he knows now. I do not participate in any kind of statement or that I feel is a lie with my son. I've never lied to my son, ever, not once. So I do not participate in discussions about Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or the Tooth Fairy or even really about Jesus.
My
Now,
daughter just lost her tooth, and she put $1 under her.
That's awesome. I like how your Tooth Fairy works.
Right? She put $1 underneath there, and then she's all, maybe tomorrow there'll be more.
Right. That's awesome. But
she kind of gets it, and she kind of plays along.
So the reason why I don't really get into Elf on a Shelf or Santa Claus or any of those things with my child is I don't want to be in a position where my son says, "You lied to me about this."
Yeah.
I want to avoid that. I want to be a person that my son comes to when he needs the straight dope. You know, when he needs somebody to tell him the truth and he needs to know. Regardless, I want him to come to me and that I will be that trusted source for him.
Yeah. What do you tell him about what other people do?
I tell him to ask his mother. So that's a question for mommy.
Is he a bah humbug to other kids?
No, he's into it. I mean, he was singing today, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, endlessly.
What I mean by that is his friends who believe in Santa, does he pop their bubble?
No, he believes in Santa Claus himself. So,
but that didn't come from you.
No, it did not come from me, and I do not participate in that.
Gotcha. Okay.
No, I just refuse participation. And if my son wishes, I really want him to make his own decision and to come to his own conclusions. And if he wishes to practice some form of religious belief, I'm not going to interfere with that or stand in the way of that.
So I have a chance to convert him.
You sure do. You sure do.
And now Brendan is not spending time with Scott.
But I am going to be the person who will tell him the truth when it's age appropriate, when it's right. And right now, it would just be a disaster for me to say, "There's no such thing as Santa Claus," I mean, so, for me to do that and then for him to start, repeating that elsewhere.
And telling other kids.
Yeah, it would just create too many hassles and issues. Personally, Josh Gunderson says he sends them to mom. So I appreciate that. Joshua
Is mom
Roberts
kind of a scapegoat?
mentions commercialism
Yes.
as well, which I think is a big issue. The secularization of the Christmas holiday.
Yeah.
It's no longer a religious event. Frankly, this has been the most stressful Christmas for me for years. And
Really?
I have some issues with anxiety, and I have bought maybe only a few gifts. I was literally paralyzed all Christmas season. I was very busy, but normally I go pretty far out and I buy a lot of gifts.
Gotcha.
Now, this year, I've made an agreement. I'm putting that money into a vacation. And so that's sort of the family gift.
So it's like the movie Christmas with the Cranks?
I'm not familiar with the movie, actually.
It's become a Christmas classic. Tim Allen, they decided to take Christmas off because their daughter went off to college and wasn't going to be there. So they decided, well, we're not spending any money on gifts. Or that we're going to go on a vacation and go on like a cruise to the Bahamas or something like that. So you got to catch that movie.
Misadventures. Yeah.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I was literally paralyzed, and there were several occasions where I pulled up Amazon or I thought about going to the mall or doing something, and I just could not do it. I just froze and could not do it.
Because?
Just too much anxiety. Just there's some sort of a mental block that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I just couldn't bring myself. I would go through, I'd click through a few items like, no, this is all garbage. This is all junk. So I don't want to acquire this. I don't want this in my house.
Gotcha. So it's more of there's no purpose.
Money.
There's no real purpose.
It's just hollow and empty to me.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
and then, why am I going to subject myself to mortal combat for the sake of a parking space at the shopping mall to acquire junk that I don't need with money that I don't really have?
Exactly.
To clutter up space in my house that, and eventually it gets thrown away because it breaks or gets, whatever. For what? For a moment of, oh, thank you, Dad.
Yeah.
But then, 10 minutes later, it's just sitting there and, they're back on the iPad or whatever. Yeah. So what's the point of this? It's madness.
And going back when you really, trying to teach our kids this and stuff like that, because I didn't grow up with a family that's a whole lot of money. Yeah. I don't have a whole lot of money right now to spend.
And you probably didn't have an iPad or all the toys and the apps and the different ways
to stay entertained and stuff like that. It was never, again, I go back, there's a book that a lot of Christians have heard of and a lot of Christians have read. You've probably heard of it, called
the Bible, maybe. Well, no, you said a lot of Christians read it. Never mind.
Wow,
I couldn't resist.
It happens a lot of times. Huh? It happens a lot of times in marriage, premarital counseling.
Okay.
And I can't remember the author of the book. Somebody's going to put it out there, but it's basically called The 5 Love Languages. You've probably heard of it before.
I have heard of it.
Yeah. And it just kind of breaks it down to that in general, there's basically 5 ways that people feel and express love, either by words of affirmation or physical touch or quality time or acts of service that you do things for them, or gifts, like literally you're giving people gifts. And
how about feeding me? That's an act of love.
That's an act of service, or it could be a gift or stuff like that. Exactly. But just to where somebody, if my love language is, quality time and you keep buying me gifts, I still don't feel loved.
Right.
Type of thing. Because I'm like, I just want you to spend time with me and talk to me and listen to me. I don't care if you buy me whatever. It doesn't mean anything. But there's obviously somebody who their love language might be gifts. That somebody taking the time to choose, the gift represents, wow, you thought of me when you weren't next to me and you knew that would make me happy. And then you chose it at that time and bought it and delivered it to me, that it's a fulfilling thing to them. Somebody enjoying gifts is not necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't make them selfish, doesn't make them shallow or anything like that.
You're supposed to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's just, but some people, that's their love language because they feel like you thought of me while I wasn't there and you picked that out for me. And what's interesting is growing up, I come to recognize that gift giving isn't really my love language. It's nice to receive a gift and it's cool.
Yeah, I noticed. Where's my stocking?
I know. Yeah, but I don't think in that way. Yeah, so I've never really thought that much of gifts. I never growing up, we didn't get a whole lot of things. We'd just, buy little things here, just the kind of the idea or anything like that. But my dad would make stuff for me and my brother. Like literally he made this. These are some of the greatest memories of childhood. I don't even know if I've told my son about this. My son Josh here is producing our show right now. It was probably 3 or 4 years in a row, just before my brother and I were teenagers, like probably in our 8 to 10 to 12-year-old age. My dad it was about this big, built a Millennium Falcon out of wood. That we could put our action figures in.
Oh, that's so
like it
cool.
Actually had a little ramp and a rope. They'd pull the ramp back up.
Oh, wow.
And he had it looked like the gun. It was just 4 nails punched into like a block of wood on the top, but it looked like the gun and a little cutout on there that you could actually sit the people, and it wasn't painted, wasn't nothing, just bare wood, sanded down so it wouldn't get splintered and stuff like that. And it was about this big, and it was the greatest thing ever. He got that as a gift. He built it for I don't know how many weeks or whatever he did, and built it. And like another year, he built us each a submarine out of wood.
That's so cool,
right? I mean, the whole side was open. He had drilled holes through there, so you had like the tunnels going through, and like it was literally he'd gotten a ketchup bottle lid and cut it open, so that was the hatch. To pass the army guys through and stuff like that. And it was just, I remember him making those things for us. And it just never, it was one of those, toys didn't mean anything to me. It didn't, if I didn't get, it was just this, he had spent that time and gave us that thing. And it was a really neat memory that it took him time, and it was a great gift, but it wasn't like a whole lot of like going out there and just, it wasn't meaningless. It wasn't buying a bunch of toys that were meaningless. It was just something like, wow, this is something that he made for us, and it's a really cool really cool memory that I have of my dad for 3 or 4 years in a row when I was younger. Made that. Millennium Falcon made a submarine. He made us like our own toy guns.
Sure.
and that kind of stuff. And it was just, it was really cool memories without it being commercialized. And that's what, I don't do a whole lot of gift giving. It's not really my love language. And it's not really, I don't want to get caught up in the whole, I got to buy this for all these, because they're like, well then I'm looking really festive right now. Usually I'm, you would think that I'm the bah humbug kind of person. Our family doesn't send Christmas cards. We don't really, it's just, we don't get caught up in we just don't get caught up in the commercialism of it. It's just like, maybe we'll get one gift, just as the idea of we're thinking about you, but not like, okay, we got to go into debt and spend thousands of dollars this Christmas.
Yeah, it's off the hook. So do you have advice for an atheist for how to survive this terrible Christian onslaught of Christmas?
The terrible Christian onslaught of Christmas.
Well, what is your advice to an atheist, and really to people out there who are watching the show? As a Christian pastor, what do we need to do to get more out of Christmas in the season? And think about atheists too.
Yeah.
It's not all Jesus for us, but
see, that's the thing. Because as a pastor, and
it is all about Jesus.
It literally it should be, and that's what it is. But as a pastor, and as a to you as an atheist, I feel that the most important thing about Christmas is for you to understand the gift that was given to you. The gift that this is the beginning of the gift that is paid off at Easter. But it's the beginning of the gift, and to have the understanding. And if I could express that love and that understanding of how much God loves you and what he wanted to do for you, if I could in some way express that for you to where it landed in your heart and it was something that you received and believed, what I would feel would be the biggest thing that it wouldn't be me doing it, but it'd be the biggest thing that could be done for you in the Christmas season. So it is, for me, it does really wrap around that idea. But I would say as advice specifically for everyone, but also to atheists, human beings are faulty. Human beings fail. Human beings we're absolutely not perfect, and even far less than that. My advice would be still understand the love of the season, even if there are people who don't represent it well. Don't get discouraged by the bad actors. Be encouraged by the heart of the season, that it really is about love. And if you can get that, if you can receive that, even if that doesn't come into your heart as a love of God, understand that the season that it is about love, to love others, to really take that time, because there are so many people, I may have lost it, but somebody I thought had posted in here that is for anxiety. It is a rough time of the season because this is where we have so many memories of family and get together. So people who've lost loved ones, this is the hardest time of the year for them because they have all these memories. It was a really tough, the year I was born. I never met my dad's dad. The year I was born, 1974, I was born, yeah, I'm that old. I was born November in 74. And I want to say December 23rd that year, my dad's dad passed away from a heart attack 2 days before Christmas. So I know that my family, even though I don't have any memory of that, I know that was a rough time, that Christmas was a rough time for many, many years, because it's all the family memories coming flooding. It's all the family times you think about and everything like that. And then you miss the person during that time. I miss my dad during this time. I know that you're missing your dad who passed away. Yeah.
Yeah. A little over a year ago.
And it's a rough time in those times. And so making sure that we're reaching out to people who we know have lost loved ones, to take my advice would be this time of year, take that extra moment to love people and be that love. Especially as Christians, be the love of Christ to people. And as a non-Christian, just know that this season people need more love.
Yeah, so don't go around saying Merry Christmas and inflicting that on people. There are people out there who will look at you and say Merry Christmas. because they're establishing some sort. It's like some sort of dominance or whatever.
Yeah,
some
the phrase
it's a
should
weird
not.
thing.
It should be a friendly greeting. It should
Right.
be. I mean, if I'm walking down the street and somebody just looked at me and said "Shalom," oh, okay, cool. What's the Arabic one where they do the it's a different word where they do the salam or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
If somebody did that,
Yeah.
I'm like, wow,
But I think
thank
it
you.
means like peace or whatever.
Yeah, but take it for what it is. Don't deliver it like a punch. Deliver it like it's meant to be. And if somebody does that and it's not your belief, take it for what take it for what you hope that they were meaning it for, which was obviously a blessing, something to make you feel better. Don't take offense to it.
Yeah, certainly. People say Merry Christmas to me all the time. On occasion, they're saying it as some way of like checking whether or not I'm one of them, a Christian or whatever.
Yeah.
But if somebody says Merry Christmas to me and I believe that they mean me well, that they mean it in sincerity, I simply say Merry Christmas right back. In fact, I will reply Merry Christmas to everybody who says Merry Christmas, no matter what their intent is, just to be a good human being.
Yes.
There's no reason to be a jerk with people. And if somebody is a jerk to you, that's not really a justification to reply in kind.
No, it never
because
is.
it doesn't pay to act that way. So if Christians are being awful in the workplace or in public or somewhere else or around the dinner table or whatever, understand it will not pay.
And if you're one of those Christians, please stop.
For you to engage in a sparring match with that Christian, that overbearing Christian relative or family member, it simply doesn't pay. Smile, nod, perhaps repeat the greeting back to them. Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you. And then go about your day. Go get some more champagne. You might need it. But that's my advice, I think, to atheists is understand that the Christians are celebrating something that's very meaningful to them. And that's okay for them to have this celebration. And if you want to celebrate in your own way, that's fine too. We all have our own ways of celebrating or marking the passing of the day.
Yeah.
Axial tilt is the reason for the season. I like to remind people of that. But ultimately...
But do you really celebrate that?
No.
Okay.
No. But this is not a time for division or strife or conflict or for doubling down. And if people do that to you, you can deflect it by just being kind about it and saying, that's their issue, but it doesn't have to be my issue. So that's sort of my advice to atheists and other people. And again, like you just said to Christians, please understand that there are people around your dinner table who may not believe or think or feel the way that you do, and that the world has changed. Our culture, our society has changed just in the past 2 decades. So while in your day and age it might be normal to go around and say what you're thankful for or to bless Jesus or what have you, understand that in this day and age there may be people who don't share that belief. And that's actually okay. I know you don't like it. I know you're afraid they're going to go to hell or something like that. But these people don't share those concerns. They don't share that fear. And if you want to convince them that you are right, if you want them to dialogue with you or to consider your point of view, you're not going to accomplish that by being aggressive or passive-aggressive, especially around the dinner table or at the holidays. So that's my advice to Christians for how they should approach this holiday.
So closing out, we're getting close to our time. Closing out, what's a favorite holiday memory? Favorite Christmas memory?
I've got a lot from lights. I love the lights, the Christmas lights, holiday lights of the season. Maybe one of my single favorite things. There is something that does stand out a bit, and I'm just picking kind of one. I had chicken pox one Christmas when I was 9, and getting together with a family, always the same when I was a kid. My sister did something, and I actually posted on Facebook about this. When I was a teenager, I was really into airplanes. I'm still really into airplanes, as we all know.
Yeah.
And she bought me the coolest gift. She bought me the coolest flight simulator at the time. And I was able to... Did it take a
joystick and stuff?
It could have, but all I had was a keyboard. I had a 386 computer and a keyboard, and I had to fly it on keyboard. My mom didn't like the noise, so I couldn't have sound on. So I flew it in complete silence using the keyboard, right? Didn't have headphones at the time. Nonetheless, I played that game for hours as a young man, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And for my sister to go out and to buy what was really exactly the gift that I appreciated and wanted meant the world to me. My sister's still out there. Now she lives in Denver, Colorado. I don't think she really watches the show. But if you do, Big Sister, I want to say thank you for that. And I still, it touched me, and I remember to this day.
Wow.
Because the gift was given with so much thoughtfulness and love. That's what I remember. It's the thoughtfulness and the love behind the gift that sticks with me to this day.
So are you adamantly against giving gift cards?
Gift cards are fine. Gift cards are fine, especially iTunes. I love me some iTunes.
Right.
I spend so much
it's
on
tough
iTunes.
because you want to cause you want to be like, well, you know, a meaningful gift, but at the same time, sometimes like if I
that's the gift.
So like
that's what they want.
Exactly. I ask my kid what's the best gift you can receive. They're all just give us cash. Just give us cash because
I'm going to buy what I want.
I'm going to buy what I want. And,
right.
And it's like, but that's kind of like it kind of ruins but you know what? If that's what they want, then, you know.
When you give a gift, give a person what they want, not what you want them to have. Give them what they want.
Now, if you can figure out what that one thing is that they want and you know them well enough to where it is meaningful and you can do it. But if you don't know what that is, then give them the ability to get what they want because, you know, if you're going to do any kind of gift at all, because that's gonna help them. That's gonna, you know, give the gift of choice.
Absolutely.
Robert says. Sorry, Robert. I read the last name, Joshua Roberts.
There you go.
Yeah.
Freedom. I like that.
Cool.
So what about you? You mentioned your Millennium Falcon.
Yeah. You know what? What's funny? My favorite Christmas memory is actually I think 20 years old, 19 or 20 years old.
Huh. Funny.
Yeah.
About the same time as my favorite Christmas memory.
And I had just my family used to rebuild cars all the time and stuff like that, and we had this old 66 Porsche 911 that we'd bought and rebuilt as a family that my dad had. It inspired me when I was in high school. Ended up buying an old Porsche 914 for like $800 or $600 at the time or whatever it was. It wasn't running. Got it all running. So we had both of these cars, and literally we had we'd had Christmas morning. Our family normally does Christmas Eve. I don't know if you do Christmas morning. My family growing up always did Christmas Eve. Again, Hispanic culture does Christmas Eve really big. Not quite sure why, but our family on my dad's side was Hispanic, and so we always did Christmas Eve really big. My dad always says because, you know, Christmas morning is to honor God and Christmas Eve is to give the gifts. And so that's so it was Christmas morning. We'd had breakfast, Christmas morning. So it's like 9 or 10 o'clock and like there's nothing going on. And my dad was just like, want to go for a drive? Let's go for a drive. Let's take our cars for a drive. So I was like 19, had my license, there you go. And he and my mom got in the old 911 and I got in my 914, turned the heater on and took the top off because it's a Targa top. And we drove through the Kern Canyon, just chasing each other, driving sports cars through the Kern Canyon. It's freezing outside and I've got the top down. I'm bundled up in a bomber jacket, gloves, and like a beanie on and the floor heater. And we're just driving through Kern Canyon, just chasing each other in the cars. And that just stands out as this Christmas memory of just having fun. It had nothing to do with Christmas, had nothing to do with presents, had nothing to do with it. It was just a memory of, we just did that on a day. Yeah. You remember that, Josh? Yeah.
Awesome.
So, man, that was it. Christmas time. Just share the love, people. Share the love. That's, you know, if there's anything you can hear from a pastor and an atheist together on the radio is share the love. Right? We can agree on sharing the love. Whatever the motivation is, my motivation is so that you understand the love of God that he has for you, along with the love that I have for you as a friend. Whatever the motivation, share the love. People need it, and it's a season to help remind us to do that.
Amen.
This has been a valid answer on that. Hold on, drop the mic. This has been a valid answer with Scott and Marshall. You can join us Sunday nights at 5, Mondays at 4. We're not sure. We're going to be gone next week. You're out of town, and we're not going to have a live show next week or tomorrow, because I actually work at a church, and we actually have church services at 3:30. At 3:30 tomorrow, so I'm not available. So we're not going to have a live show tomorrow. We'll see what's going to come up, but and we're not going to have a live show next weekend. But we'll be back live first week of January, coming at you, and whatever date that is.
Like the
7th,
5th, or the 6th.
6th, something like that. Whatever it is in January, we'll be back live. But you can catch us on kerncast.com, Kerncast on Facebook.
And we will have some shows up in the meantime.
And we will have some shows.
We're going to
be on. We won't be live. There will be there'll be some things to watch. We just won't be live, but still join in on those times when those things are playing. You can comment on them, and we'll respond to the comments on Facebook, and still will be active on there. We just won't be in studio live.
Right.
So until next time, Scott Garcia,
Marshall.
Yep.
And happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. Come on, after all that.
All right, Merry Christmas.
I got it. Happy holidays. Bye.
Bye.